Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening a massive increase on Chinese tariffs. In a post on his social media site, Trump said, starting November 1st or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes taken by China, the U.S. will impose a tariff of 100% on China over and above any tariff that they're currently paying. He adds also on November the 1st, the U.S. will impose export controls on any and all critical software. Let's get into this more now with international trade lawyer Robert Glasgow. Robert, great to have you with us. Thanks for making some time. Let's start with those comments from the Chinese ambassador to Canada that we were just playing as relates to tariffs. What do you make of that?
Well, on those comments, Canada's kind of caught between Scylla and Charybdis on this. On the one hand, you have the Chinese government wanting Canada to open up its markets and to remove the unilateral tariffs that Canada imposed. On the other, you have actually a dual pressure, one from the United States government, because those tariffs are part of a strategy that first unfolded under President Biden, but then also from Canadian automakers, because of the integrated Canadian and U.S. and Mexican auto market. So it really is in a really tough needle for the Carney government to thread to try to placate the Chinese enough to help out the canola farmers and the other agricultural products that China has been levying tariffs on, and the other not submarining our own domestic industry and not, annoying the Americans to the point that they might take retaliatory action.
Yeah, it's quite a complex situation, isn't it, Robert? But where does it tell you about where the needle is, or whether it's moved or not at all, between Ottawa and Beijing?
So I think the fact that China is making comments shows either one of two things. Either number one, that Canada has been engaged in quiet and effective diplomacy with the Chinese government, such that they're about to move, or that Canadian negotiations with the Americans are actually much more advanced than some people might think, and much more advanced than some of the public comment that we've gotten. And this is China trying to kind of, throw a grenade into the works, so to speak, to try to keep things from resolving satisfactorily.
So who has to blink next here, do you think?
It really is difficult. Because China has abundant export markets that they can look to, and they also have the largest consumer market in the world. So they have a lot of leverage from that perspective. On the other hand, the Canadian canola market is one that can be adequately compensated by the Canadian government, and Canadian canola farmers can be supported through these difficult times. And, China has a rampant need for inputs. And one of the biggest inputs that they need are agricultural goods to help feed their very large population. So it really is an interesting place where I'm not sure who has to blink first. I think that it will be interesting to watch to see, number one, how the American negotiations go, because maybe that can then provide some relief to the Canadian exporters by opening up those markets.
I was going to ask you about that before we wrap up here, because Trump threatening to massively hike tariffs on China. How do you sort through the bluster of that and figure out where the substance is going next?
Well, you have that old saying, Trump always chickens out. And we already saw some slight softening of Trump's comments late night, where he seemed to imply that maybe that call with President Xi is still on. And so you never know, whenever he makes these after hours and after market hours comments about China, that then moves, the market moves cryptocurrency massively. Whether or not he's going to maintain that attitude once the futures markets opens on Sunday, or if he's going to suddenly about face and we're going to be dealing with another market rebound. It's really hard to predict where he's going to go with any of this. But if he does stick to a hard line, that potentially does give Canada some additional leverage with the Chinese. So the Chinese are going to need additional markets if the American one is being slammed shut.
All right. It's certainly a complex conversation, and I know we'll have to continue it at another time. Robert Glasgow, international trade lawyer at McCarthy Tétrault LLP. Thanks for joining us here on CTV News Channel today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.